1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2.
Welcome to Insights. I'm Eric. I want to address the tax proposals that are being kicked around the internet and in the headlines. Here we see Tom McClellan brought about the discussion through Congress is kicking around ideas of how to raise taxes after the stimulus in order to pay for all of its programs. I'm not going to really address the logic of that. I mean, we spend far more money than we can ever collect in tax receipts, but in this discussion there, he's just saying that there's a limit to the upside of how much revenues you can collect before you get a recession. I'm going to say that it's a good start, but it goes deeper than that. You have to look at outliers. You have to look at tax withholdings. You have to look at quite a bit of everything before you really understand whether or not an economy is losing acceleration to the upside or acceleration to the downside, which it's really the acceleration that matters, either up or down. An economy is either accelerating or it's decelerating, and you either have an expansion or contraction. There's really output percentages and linear levels don't really matter. It's really the change of the direction. And I've talked about this before in terms of the economic activity composite, which measures all of these concepts. It includes some of these issues right here. It looks at tax receipts, but it frames them against outlays. Similar to this, we can see that we can recreate that chart that McClellan generated, and you can see that about 18% is where he suggests the recessions come about, right about here, and apparently right about there. But I mean, the computer didn't really find it to be useful just to isolate total revenues. You want to take a look at outlays as well. And when you look at outlays, you can see the setup is even far more damaging. The amount of revenues that we're collecting in comparison to outlays is expanding at a rate and falling to levels we haven't seen since the end of World War II, which is either there's another war coming or we're spending like there's a war already, and this is unsustainable. It was unsustainable here and had to end. Will we restore similar trends? It's unlikely. We're going to probably push these to the limits, and then the whole system will break. Here's total revenues relative to withheld, which is more of a leading indicator because it reflects of what people are withholding for next year's taxes in the current year. And we can see that the withholdings are falling to levels we haven't seen. They've broken below the 2009 or the lows that were generated after the Great Recession. So we are definitely entering into uncharted territory. So the idea that you want to frame revenues or a taxation principle against limits to the upside, I do agree there is a limit. Anytime you impose a tax, you don't ever quite collect as much in terms of what you think you were going to collect, because the system is dynamic. It reacts to the new tax policies. It moves around. It changes. Some of the money goes to avoid it. Some of it goes to pay it. But so the amount of tax revenues collected is always limited. The whole premise that digital money would be used in order to expand the upside potential of tax collection, well, it's possible, but it also assumes that even whether it's digital, paper money, or anything, that money doesn't adapt. I would assume that money would adapt. It would just adapt in a more of a advanced and digital way, and it still would avoid collection. What I've shown before is the economic activity composite includes concepts like tax collection. It does so in the federal budget oscillator, which is below zero. It combines numerous other real-time indicators to suggest that the economy is recovering, but just barely recovering above the zero line. We can see that by the intermediate oscillator, which is blue. The long-term oscillator is red. It's starting to fall and meet the long-term oscillator, so it's already weakening. If the long-term oscillator holds above the zero line, and again, this stuff can be, and I'll show you, it can be found inside the matrix. The matrix has its own section, but you want to keep an eye on this. If this drops below and this continues up, we're going to have a continuation of the expansion. Maybe it will garner more taxation, and then the taxation will change the equation. I think the point here is that the equation is a multi-pronged approach. When we go to the matrix here and do it quickly, we can look at these indicators down here in the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy is all found in these areas, and you can find the ITCO, LTCO, they're slightly above zero, and the other contributing factors within it. But it's really the point that I think I want to make is that it's just not just taxation. Taxation might be here. It's also confidence. It's also commodities. It's also labor. So don't get focused on any one headline that says, well, that's the end because they're changing the tax collection. Taxes are going up. The economy is going to go down. Are taxes going up as confidence is bullish, which is the unshaded regions, or bearish, which is where we are now in the shaded regions? It makes a difference in what other cycles that we lie within. So this whole discussion about taxation and how it's going to affect the economy, yes, it's going to do that, but you have to keep in mind that the overall direction, whether it be up or down, is a function of it's really a multi-dimensional look at the U.S. economy and the global economy, and it goes well beyond what the federal government is doing. It's going to be interest rates play a role. Confidence in the institutions play a role. So it's a dynamic equation. So keep an eye on it in the long-term section of the matrix. We're going to probably see this discussion expand in time. But right now, keep an eye on this section here. Look for divergences. Look for this arrow to go down. Follow the comments here to find out whether or not they are ready to change, or the time cycles are extended, or volatility is pointing towards a correction. But it's really not as simple as following the upcoming tax policies. If they get too egregious, it's going to cause social disorder, which will affect confidence. And when confidence goes, it can affect all sorts of things. So this is, keep an eye on this entire box right here. So if you have any questions about the U.S. economy, taxation, or how to follow this stuff inside the matrix, let me know. There's some links under the video. Follow them back to the blog. Leave some comments. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the matrix. Those are all things that will help. If you want any more help here, click links like this. This will describe this in detail for you. This will help you get a better understanding of how this information is collected and how to read it. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys later.